BadCon. Hello, folks. Early on the west coast of the United States, but at completely reasonable hours everywhere else in the world. So, greetings. I'm Anjali Bhimani.
I'm Madigan Hunt.
Yes, this is Madigan, and we're gonna do a little panel here with you guys. I secretly am a little bit unsure if you can submit questions, so I'm hoping that you can through this because I want this to be as informal as possible. But Madigan has prepared some awesome stuff for us to get started with. Madigan, you want to start by telling the gang a little bit about yourself?
I was going to start by introducing you.
Well, go for it. I mean,
hello, here's a panel.
Rock, paper, scissors for it. It's very casual.
Hi, everyone. So our panel is Staying Human, Creating Compelling Characters in the Age of Technology, which is a really fancy way of saying we're going to be talking about things like parasocial relationships, online creation, technology infusing with RPGs and other sort of games in this space. And I, have the pleasure of introducing a woman who needs no introduction, Anjali Bhimani. You know her from Overwatch, Ms. Marvel, Critical Role. I could go on for a very, very long time listing out all of your incredible accomplishments. But yeah, she's here and she is graciously lending her time to talk about, something that I think personally, I think about more than anything else, which is just how we can continue to stay human with these characters and with these games as we explore a world that it gets increasingly more automated. I mean, we just see technology, has breached every single space. So, I should probably introduce me too. Hi.
Well, I'm going to introduce you a little bit first. Well, first, go ahead. I want to hear what you
say. No, you go.
No, then I'm going to brag about you after. So,
okay.
Hear what you actually cover, and then I'm going to do the bragging.
Because
that is my right as an elder statesman.
I leave that to you. Hi, I'm Madigan. I am currently Anjali's head of production at Bad Auntie Entertainment, or BAE for short.
Right.
Yes, we did reverse engineer the name for the acronym.
Not entirely, but we did discover it, and all of a sudden we were like, well, duh.
Well, of course. I am a game writer, a game designer, and a game master. That's kind of me. I don't know.
Well, she also has a wonderful show that she and her castmates put together called Escape Artists, which is a fully cosplayed TTRPG actual play show that you guys can see online. She's an incredible cosplayer. Check her out. She is poetess_cosplay on Instagram. She is that_poetess on Twitter. She's a baller. I love her. I can't believe that I have the joy of getting to work with her every single day. We are very, very happy to have her on board.
Guys, guess what? This panel's just us gushing.
It's just us talking about each other.
I thought you were going to get something interesting.
But part of the reason that I love so much working with you is that we are so aligned in so many ways about character and story and about how we can all connect so deeply, both through the actual playing of TTRPGs, but also in this world. And one of the reasons that I talk about this topic, staying human, I usually call it staying human, being an artist in the age of technology, but I like to talk about how it applies particularly to the TTRPG world a lot too, is because while we have this incredible reach that we all have to be able to talk to someone, I'm talking to you guys all around the world, to be able to talk to people all over the place, a lot of times we can feel further and further and further apart from people because we're only doing this and not necessarily getting into the deeper discussions that you would have when you are face to face, or that when you're not limited to 280 characters or whatever. So I think through the creative world, and particularly through this TTRPG world, where we get to decide who we are playing and how we are playing them and the depth of all of these characters, we have an opportunity not only to connect more with each other, but to connect more with ourselves.
Yeah.
So I know Madigan had some questions for me, and I'm going to lob it on over to you, and then I'm probably going to answer them in a very roundabout way, because that's what I do.
You know what? That's perfect. They always say that, like, in a job interview, if it turns into a conversation, that means you got something good going. So
Absolutely. I'm interviewing for a job. You guys tell me if I got it by the end of this show. I mean, by the end of...
That's the whole panel. I just wanted to start with like something super general to just kind of segue us into the topic. But I wanted to like start off by talking about in an age of digital technology, we have all of this new, especially with artificial intelligence that's starting to ramp up. It kind of dominates most of our interactions. I think a lot of us start our day looking at our phones or our computers, already behind schedule. So, how do you ensure that the characters you're creating or playing, especially you as an actress, this is, not just a hobby of yours, this is your job. How do you maintain that human persona or that human like shred of truth?
Yep.
Um, especially when you're doing like online auditions and things like that.
Yeah, that what a great question, and what a big question. So I have personally found that it has been an ongoing practice for me, um, to set specific times of day, particularly that first hour or so of the morning, to not be online, or to like I look for 911 texts and that's it. And I won't even look at my email usually until at least an hour or so after I've woken up, because email to me is the bane of my existence. Not that I shouldn't say that, but there's just like there's a lot of them, right? And the way I think about it is this: when we are having one-on-one conversations with people, if someone just came in the middle of the sentence and started talking to us, it would be rude and it would be distracting and it would be unsettling and we would lose our train of thought. And in a way, that's what text message and notifications are, right? Someone else, whether wittingly or unwittingly, I don't think they mean to, but has just intruded upon whatever you're in the middle of doing. And so now that we live in a world where that is the norm, it's up to us to set that boundary and to set that practice for ourselves when we are open for people to come in and do that, and when we are not, and to set our practices and to set our friends' expectations and our community's expectations. And this is particularly where it applies to online creators, to really set the expectations of when we might be available, how available we are. You know, we all have that friend who will write you a text and then you write one line and then all of a sudden it's 40 texts later and you're like, I give me a minute. I was doing something else, but now I need to focus on this. So setting those expectations for other people, I think, also helps us manage a certain amount of stress, because the instinct is, oh my God, I have to answer this right away. Oh my God, I have to answer this right away. I have to do this right away. I have to answer that email right away. I have to do that. You determine that. That's entirely up to you. And the reason I bring all of this up, I know this isn't, necessarily a panel on digital hygiene, but I think as a creator of any kind, the fact is, when you are actually creating something, 99% of the time, you need to not be dealing with notifications. You need to be creating in a space, even if you are creating stuff for the internet, you need to be in a space where you are filming the thing, or recording the thing, or writing the thing, or ideating about the thing. My very sweet husband had to learn very quickly that, and I had to explain to him, look, I'm an actress, which means that sometimes it's going to look like I'm sitting somewhere doing nothing. I am not doing nothing. I am creating up here. I am ideating on something. I am imagining something. So even if I am sitting somewhere with my mouth shut and in my office, check before you just kind of like, we're going to come in and do something else, although he does that anyway and I don't mind. But that protecting that creative space, I think, is very important. So that is one thing. I'm not perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination. I it is an ongoing navigation, and it's an ongoing negotiation with my own needs. But especially like, when you're playing a 4-hour one shot, being on your phone, and we've all done it. Like sometimes we're texting our DM, so you're sending side notes to be like, let them know secrets. So it's, I think when you're playing a 4-hour one shot, ideally speaking, you're not on your phone, you're in there with other people, you're in there creating with them. So so that digital hygiene, I think, to me is very, 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 very important. The other thing, and this is just a human thing, but that's why this is called staying human, is constantly, always, 100% of the time, remembering that whoever you are writing to online, there is a human being on the other side of that tweet, of that text, of that message, of that email. it is so easy for people to get online and fire off things that they would never say to someone's face, or they would think more carefully of how to say it. And because tone is always difficult to convey as it is in text or in messages like that, I think we need to be very concerted in our efforts to communicate clearly and concisely and use the right words and with compassion when we are talking to other people or when we are creating online, or especially when we are talking about other creative endeavors online. Um, it's we've seen it in chat rooms. We've seen it everywhere where people are maybe a little bit less conscious of that and the damage that it can do. And normalizing that, I think, is a problem. To normalize people just being okay saying awful things. We're sort of there again in chat rooms, but I do my best to not. It's very much something that I'm very, very careful about. The same way I'm careful in game, the same way I'm careful at a table. With I want to make sure that even if I am playing a very antagonistic character or in a very emotional situation, I either know the person well enough that I know we're going to be okay and we're going to check in after we're done, or I'm doing it in such a way that I know it's still respectful and it's still very much in character, and it doesn't cross any lines or veils, and it doesn't hit any trigger points. If I know the person well, it doesn't hit any trigger points that might hurt them in character, because that bleed it's too easy for that bleed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, just that idea that you said holding creative space and protecting creative space is such an important.
It's vital. And it's vital whether you consider yourself a creative by trade or not. Because whether or not, if you play or are involved in TTRPGs in any way, you are a creative. I mean, if you're a human being, you're creative. Everybody's got it in them. But particularly in this world, it's a fantasy world. Whatever world you're playing in, it is a world of our own creation. And if you do not have a container, have some space inside you where things can happen, where you are not only clocking the facts around you and only clocking the reality you see, there's no room to fantasize. There's no room to imagine what is possible. There's no room to check in with yourself and say, what do I really want? The world may look like this today, but what do I want out of the world that maybe it doesn't look like right now? Do I want to play that in a game? Do I want to imagine what my version of utopia looks like? Or maybe not utopia, but just my version of a better world looks like. What is that? You can't do that when you're answering or constantly putting in output. This is another thing. There's a great book, one of my favorite books by one of my favorite authors. His name is Todd Henry. I recommend this to every artistic person on the planet, professional or otherwise. It's called Die Empty. And it's all about creating your best work and creating your best creative work and creating practices for all of us to be able to create at a moment's notice. And one of the things he talks about is creating that space for dreaming, that space for mapping things out, for planning things out, for making them, the actual execution of them. But then he also talks about the meshing time. And the meshing time is the time where you take whatever information you've done or whatever experiences you have, and you actually start to integrate them into your life and into your psyche. And it's almost like you debrief. It's so vital. And I realized after I wrote that book that was the part that I was paying the least attention to.
Well, I think we as a society don't tend to value process, or we're even moving away from process. I think about like when you're making something, right? There's like the start, there's the process, and then there's the product. And we are so focused on the product of what is created that we don't focus on the creating that is the process. And I think that's why I love TTRPGs, because it's just the process.
It's the journey. It's all process. It's
all process.
It's all process. And it's such a wonderful parallel. I'm so glad that you brought that up that way. It's such a wonderful parallel for life or for the creative process itself. Because I think one of the reasons that we don't actually pay attention to the process is because process is hard.
It's so hard.
The creative process is not always pleasant.
No, they say act 2 in a script is the hardest act
exactly.
to write. The chunky part.
It's I love it, but part of it is painful. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the, like there are a lot of diagrams online that you can see of the creative process, and it sort of looks like the Grand Canyon, that you're like, oh, this is so easy, this is amazing, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. Oh my God, I'm the worst artist in the history of mankind. And now it's a slog to get up to the final part and then the manifestation of what you created. And so the process is not always pleasant. But when we play TTRPGs, we love that. We love the battle. We love the hard part. We love the struggle. We lean into it. And when we create characters, and this is a good segue into this, one of my very, very favorite, and for me, a personal requirement, things to do when I create a character is, what's their flaw? What's their personal battle? What is their inner demon? I mean, it might actually be a demon, but what is their inner challenge that is almost a bigger struggle for them than defeating a dragon? What is the thing that
Yeah.
what is the thing that they know is their challenge, and what is the thing that they don't know is their challenge? But it's
What do they think they need versus what do they actually need?
exactly.
My screenwriting professor, my old screenwriting professor, used to say, "What is their superpower and what is their wound?" When we would create characters.
Great way
They
to put
should
it.
and they should be connected too. It shouldn't just be two different. Usually, the thing you're best at is the thing you're also worst at, and the thing that could theoretically be your downfall. So connecting those two is how she always taught us to make characters that feel human,
That's a great,
because
yeah.
if you're extremely confident, maybe you also suck all the air out of the room, or you aren't able to see your own flaws. And so, like, looking at the dark and light side of the coin is always a good place to start.
And also for a lot of characters, the very reason that, I'm just going to take my hair down because this has been bugging me, and you see me reaching back there. The very reason that a lot of characters have followed the path that they do, and certainly happens in TTRPGs, is because of some inciting incident that was not happy and that is part of their wound. Very much that is a specific part of the gameplay system for Candela Obscura. Is what is your inciting incident? What is the thing that made you the awful thing that happened to you that sent you to Candela, or the experience that you had? And whether it was paranormal or something else, doesn't necessarily, could be either. Brennan Lee Mulligan we were just talking the other day about his character in Candela and how he very much wanted he wanted, I'm going to put this so badly, and he's so incredibly eloquent that now I'm getting nervous about saying what he was trying to say. But basically, we were talking about how a lot of times, even though the monster is outside, the real big monster is other people, and the other people or the other experiences that you have had in your life. This is why I never understood the zombie apocalypse genre. I never understood for the longest time why people wanted to watch The Walking Dead, until I really connected with it and realized it's not about zombies. It's about the people and the relationships that they're creating and how they deal with this circumstance, which is why when I came back to TTRPGs, and the first one that I played was on We're Live Frontier, it was Outbreak Undead, I fell in love with it. And I thought I was going to be like, oh God, I hate zombie stories. But it wasn't about.
It's not about the zombies. And that's what,
it's about your internal struggle and internalizing that and figuring it out with your pals.
Yeah. It's the catharsis. I've done a ton of research into why we love to fail in tabletop games, like why we to be bad at it. And it's so interesting. It's the same reason why we like to put on sad music or watch Titanic, or our brain releases endorphins when we reach that catharsis state. So when we are working through the process and creating these characters and attaching to these characters, we don't have to take on their actions. They can make a bad decision. They can make a morally gray decision. We don't have to take that on, but we are taking on the emotions, the catharsis, the process of working through that with other people. And that's crazy to me that our brain can wire pathways based on experiences that we've made up. We have just created a story.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, I think it's such a great lesson for life. It's such a great lesson for our own growth as human beings, to recognize when we roll a natural one in game, we may be disappointed, but we also know okay, I gotta figure out how to work the story around this. And ideally, if you are playing at a table where everybody is really in sync, it's something exciting. It is useful. It's almost delicious to see how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to make this work? There is an elation to it, and there is, as a storyteller, a challenge that is not. I mean, it's you failed at the action, but it is not a failure in the storytelling.
No.
And we don't necessarily do that for ourselves in real life. We don't say, crap, I just completely failed at that thing. How am I going to turn this into something good? How am I going to turn this into something that still steers me in the right direction? How am I going to make this a part of the story I want my life to be?
Yeah.
My one of my next books is all about how we use narrative in our, we can use the power of narrative in our lives to create the lives that we want. And I think you learn a lot from playing TTRPGs, because that ability to mold a natural one into something magnificent, or to have it tell a story that doesn't completely ruin or take you off the path. It just puts you on a different path. What do you do with that? How do you make the most of that? How does your character make the most of that? I do think it's really a fun exercise, you know, when you first start playing, to create a character that is very much like yourself. It might be an idealized version of yourself, but again, I'm going to go back to Where Alive Frontier. The character that I played in that show, her name was Stingray. She was formerly a doctor until the zombie apocalypse. All sorts of stuff. So she had a lot of characteristics of my own. She had an overdeveloped sense of, like, I will protect at all costs. I will take care of at all costs. But she also had tremendous guilt and shame about things that she felt that she had failed at in the past, whether she had actually failed at them or not. She carried that, and it was very much a driving force for her. And being able to work through, without putting them in the game and without imposing them on other people, because you have to be very careful. Like, you're not there, it's not there to take the place of therapy. Sometimes it becomes therapy, but it is not there to be therapy. You are not there to work your shit out on other people. That's not how that's
so important. That's so important.
Yeah. But you kind of do inadvertently do that sometimes. And I loved so much being able to see, like, this is who I would hope I would be in the zombie apocalypse. And now our storage space is, because now I'm prepared for it. But that,
I know who I'm calling.
Yeah, you know, exactly. You've seen it. When we are able to connect to that part of ourselves that we maybe think of as flawed, but we connect to it as a character's flaw, we can almost see how to mold that into something that is a great story, so that it's not a flaw. It might be a weakness that just hasn't been developed. It might just be something, it might just end up being a fact to you. When I was little, I used to think that being short was a flaw. Now I see it as a feature, not a bug. I love it. It's so convenient. And there are so many reasons why it's fantastic for me and empowering for me. And that's a very reductive one version of this, but same thing that we can do in our characters. We can work through those ways of taking stats that are maybe not necessarily as high and making them a part of this beautiful character that we love to play. And in turn, we can see that part of ourselves and love to be that person, whether we have a 3 or an 18. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever that stat is.
That's such a good, I mean, I like it. Someone told me once that it's like tricking yourself into loving yourself. Because I love this character, and gosh, I just like, I fall in love with characters that are flawed. I mean, morally gray characters, like those, I hold those so close to my chest. Sure. And then I'm like, oh, well, they're a wreck. And so I love
but they're
them.
My hot mess.
They're my hot mess.
She's a mess, but she's my mess. And I love that. Right? It's so
and so fun. Then it's like, okay, well, I have to then have some grace for myself if I make a similar mistake. Exactly. Because I love it so much on paper and in these stories that I love. So why don't I offer myself the same grace? Right. And I think it goes back to that process. We value the product, and we value people who can get the product fast. We don't value those in betweens, like flaws. Well, that will take away from the product. I won't achieve as fast if I am this. And instead of just loving the story, and if we treat ourselves like stories, I do genuinely think we love ourselves and have more grace towards ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I often say to myself is, how is this going into the bank of my life is awesome? Because one way or the other, this is a deposit. Even if it's something that looks really awful on the outside, this is going to be a deposit into the bank of my life is awesome. Not the deposit. I don't have an account at the bank of my life sucks. I don't even have an account there. It's all
they spam call you a lot, but you don't have anything.
They keep trying to get me, like, they keep giving me welcome offers. It's terrible. But I want to say, I want to extend this further, that we're talking about how we can affect ourselves internally with these characters and our own humanity. But what I find and what I love so much is that connecting with your community and connecting with other people who are either watching or playing with you, but really the broader community, for me, it's also been a wonderful experience to see people identifying with characters, not just because of their desired traits, and them seeing those things in themselves and not thinking that they are flaws or failures, and being able to be empowered because they know that, okay, well, I see this character. Excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze.
It's allergy season.
And it's so dry here in Chicago in this room because the heater is on. So sorry, guys. That's excellent television. I'm so glad you watched it.
But being able people, and unedited, we're steering this ship in the direction of our thesis.
but being able to connect with a broader audience because your character does have those insecurities or that history, or maybe that physical issue, or that particular neurodivergency. Although I kind of believe that at this point, quote unquote neurodivergent people are the majority. So I'm like, divergent from whom? I feel like everyone I know is neurodivergent and
you're neurotypical, you're the minority.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be the person saying that, but I do feel like I'm so in love with the diversity that we have in the world. And that diversity very much applies to our brains and our hearts. Look at the variety of characters that you can create. Let's just take Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, for now, just take that. That's one game. Look at the variety of characters that you can create in that game. They may be the exact same race. They may be the exact same stat build. They may be the exact same thing as someone else, but they are still a completely different character than someone else will create or someone else will play, right? That comes from here and from here. That's the divergence. That's the place where everybody finds their creative juices, finds their vision of how they see the world, and how we can either connect with people because of those similarities, or, and this is, I write about this in my book so much, or just by sharing this story, I might help someone turn the kaleidoscope that they're looking to just one notch to the right or left, and all of a sudden they see something they've never seen before, and it clicks, and suddenly they can incorporate something brand new, a brand new experience into their lives that they may never have had before, because they shared in that story, whether as a viewer, whether as a player, one way or another, they connected to it. I love this especially so much whenever I talk to people about Symmetra, because up until the point that Symmetra came out, and I know there's a video game and it's not necessarily a TTRPG character, but it is still a character that was created and written and built, and a very unique and complex character. And I love so much that so many people have looked at her and seen the part of her that I love so much, which is that whatever challenges that she faced along the way, whether it was being plucked away from her parents, whether it was, being an amputee, whether it was her being on the spectrum and other people not understanding it, she learned to see it as her own strength. She learned to turn it into something that, okay, I'm divergent in this way, but that means I can do things that no one else can do. So how cool is that? She even says that in the comic. So being able to create that for your community, and it doesn't have to be as big and clear a thing as that, but just by bringing those very, very human feelings and thoughts and perceived flaws that are probably a feature, not a bug. All of those things, the totality of a human being that you can bring when you create a character can be the very, very thing that connects you to your community and connects you to other people and inspires other people or gets them to look more at their lives in a different way, or triggers something that makes them want to create a really cool character or try something new. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing.
I mean, oral storytelling is one of the first recorded human activities. We have proof of oral storytelling going back to paintings on cave walls. And I think that's beautiful that we have this like string of humans telling stories with each other through words and actions and sometimes art. And I think, you know, discovering that you're neurodivergent through these games is also something that's so beautiful, because when someone creates a character and you see yourself and all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, that character's so ADHD coded, or that character's so, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I so like that character. Oh, all those flaws that I thought were flaws.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Like,
Yeah,
that's so beautiful.
this is a little bit of a tangent, but I just want to recommend actually three videos. One, I love Ginny D. Please, everyone, follow her. She has two videos about both being a player with ADHD and being a dungeon master
Yes.
with ADHD.
I love those.
They're really wonderful videos. But also, I just saw, and I don't know who it is, but I bet if you look up TEDx Spokane, Spokane, for folks who don't live in the States and don't know where Spokane is, TEDx Spokane and ADHD. There's this wonderful clip going around the internet from this woman's TED Talk about the amazing things about ADHD that we have been told in the world at large are flaws or bad. That ADHD is actually in many ways so wonderful. Not, I mean, it's not wonderful because there are challenges, but it can be so useful as a creative. It can be so specifically useful as a creative.
It's two people with ADHD staring at each other for this.
I know, exactly. But again, there's also a mutual understanding. And just like when you play the game and there is an understanding of like, cool, that's my tank. I know what they're good at. I know what they're not good at. Cool, that's my wizard. I know what they're good at. I know what they're not good at. You know, you go through and they might still be able to do things, you know, because the dice are the great equalizer, they might still be able to do things that the wizard can do, something the tank can do, and the tank can do something that the wizard can do. All of those things are entirely possible, but that collaborative understanding of this is my lane, I'm going in, that being able to look at whatever your personal makeup is and translate that into a character. That's again going back to Real Life Frontier. One of the reasons that I loved it so much was because in order to create your character, you filled out, and I don't remember the name of this form, but they used it for Outbreak Undead, and it was basically like you take a quiz about yourself, your actual self, and you end up determining your stats based on that.
That's so cool. That's like,
my first character. So Stingray was very like, she was me. She was definitely me. I was a lot more in
that's
shape.
so much scarier in so many senses of the, like, putting yourself in that situation.
Yeah, and look, you can, you know, if you want,
Yeah.
like, you do whatever you want. It's a game, but recognizing, okay, cool. I didn't realize I had all these strengths. I just answered all these questions and just answered them like, yes, I would do this. This is what I would do. This is here. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, cool. That's who I am in this game. Let's try it out. Let's see how I manage with that. This is completely separate, but another way that I love to create characters, and I'm very glad that I really got to do this with the Ravening War, is taking characters who are very, very, very good at what they do in one particular environment and taking them out of that environment and what happens. How do they manage? Do they manage? Are they a hot mess there, or do they figure it out? And you don't know until you play the game because it's all improvisational, right? That's another way I love to create characters that we can identify with and connect about, because I mean, I know it in my life experience, my ample life experience, one of the greatest skills that I have learned to develop is being comfortable being uncomfortable. Being comfortable and trusting that even if I don't know what the hell I'm doing, which is 9 times out of 10, if I don't know what I'm doing, I will figure it out because I have to, and I will survive it. And all I have to do is survive it. I don't have to get an A+, much to my high school brain's chagrin, but I just have to survive it because that's life. You know, that that is also something that I feel like it's really well developed when we are playing TTRPGs.
It really, really is. And I think that, like, what a special space that we've cultivated. And I do think, we've talked a lot about how technology maybe inhibits some of that stuff, but the fact that we get to do that across borders, across countries, and get to play these games and be connected to other people, that's also pretty special too. So I love that. There is a question that was submitted.
Glad you caught it, because I saw it. I was like, oh no, I don't know how to do this without messing with Windows. So
no, I got you.
Okay, cool.
So the question comes in and it's asking, at a game table or in a collaborative creative project, how do you balance telling your character's story while also highlighting the ideas and stories of your collaborators?
It is, first of all, what a great question. Because I know we're all talking about our own characters and we're talking about how can I work through all this stuff, but ultimately it is a collaborative story and it's not all about you. It's about the story, not just your story. So great question. I found that as a creative in general, my entire life changed when I realized that everything I was creating was in service of something other than myself, and needed to be in service of something other than myself. Because it's not just some philanthropic or generous or open thing, but it's also because when we are only focused on ourselves or our own story, we contract. It is something that inhibits our creative juices, whether it is us worrying about how am I going to tell this story, how am I going to get my part in, or you're in an audition saying, oh, I hope that they really like me. What did they want? How do I get hired by them? Me, I. Mm-mm. You got to let go of all of that and look at the big picture. Whenever I step into an audition, and I like to do this at the table too, I come into the experience with this sort of underscoring mantra of I got you. I don't know what we're going to be doing in here together, but I got you. We're going to do it together. And if it's an audition, great. Worst case, you're going to be entertained. Best case, we all go home because I'm the guy. So like this is a win-win situation. If I'm at the table, I am there with a curiosity because I want to know everybody else's stories. I already know my story. I'm going to tell my story. It's going to come out one way or the other because I'm playing, right? But what I like to come there with a curiosity of like, how can I learn more about you? What is the best way for me to serve up parts of the story that are basically so like I'm lobbing a ball so someone can knock it out of the park. I don't know. I'm bad at sports ball games. I don't know what this analogy is, but where I'm setting someone up to be able to share bits and pieces of their story. Now it's a very broad way to look at it, and I think it's a very big question because there are many ways you can do it. You can do it through conflict. You can do it through simple moments of like, hey, tell me more about yourself type scenes that you are experiencing in your game. But inevitably, I'm just not thinking, even when it seems like, wow, she's like sitting here and telling her whole story. the reason I am telling that story is to get to the end of it and connect it back to the person that I am telling it to.
Yeah.
That's why it's happening.
I have always found, and like especially as a game master, I love to ask my players, like, what do you want out of this story? So that I can be sure to throw that at them or be able to weave it in together. I just love taking moments, and especially like, an NPC from one character's backstory and connecting it
Yep.
to someone else's story, because
Yeah.
having stories that are connected is such a great way, because then it isn't just five separate stories that are trying to like come together. It's one story and you are each a very important part of it.
Yeah, we haven't
And
really
so
talked about DM's part of this and how vital it is, and also session zeros.
yeah, oh, completely. Yes.
Any kind of session zero or character creation session, I don't I don't love creating my characters separate from the party. I love having session zeros where we're all figuring it out kind of together. And I know that that's not great for metagaming, and sometimes you literally just want to be super surprised. But just having those moments of cool, cool, cool. Now I know. All right, our stories seem like they are completely separate, but one way or the other, we're going to figure out how to interweave them. And yes, the DM is vital to that part, or the GM is vital to that experience. And the most masterful ones that I've seen and that I've worked with, I'm blown away by how they find a way to make the world connect people. So yeah, doing it in service of other people for me is a big thing. It also like it's so draining and sad when you are focused solely on yourself, and it can really, it just can really mess with your head. I was so insecure as a human being. I was so insecure and worried about being accepted and all of these things until I stopped caring about all of that as much, and really just started looking out and being like, who are you? What excites you? And how do we get it? Let's go. Discuss.
I mean, I remember the first the when I was playtesting Kandala, and we were sitting there, and because it was a playtest and a closed playtest, I had not seen the game, been sent the game materials maybe like a
Right.
day prior, and we did character creation at the table in an environment, and there's the nerves. I've always been the person who gets the notes that's like, you talk too much in the Socratic seminar, please let other people have a turn. And so I feel like I go into games, I'm always like, okay, don't talk too much, remember other people need a turn too. Okay. And immediately the person who was sitting next to me was like, well, what if our characters were intertwined and like we came to the circle together because of this, this, and this? And all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, we're doing this together, it's not just me. And so I'm always like, find a way to connect to someone else, even if it's just one person or you met a day prior. Like, work out a way that it's not just you going into it, because then it automatically creates a balance.
Yeah, and DMs. Look, I have DM'd a total of one time, and it's going to be airing at 9 a.m. today. So,
Amazing at it.
but
Yeah,
I
go
will
watch it.
say, yeah, go watch it later on, please. I will say that there are so many times where I'm very grateful for a DM being like, and you, what are you up to at this moment? Because a lot of times there will be someone at the table who maybe either is unsure of how to come in, or nervous, or like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. There might be a new player who doesn't know it's okay to come in. So it's very much up to us as players and DMs or GMs able to be able to include maybe the quieter person or the shyer person in the experience. Get them excited. That's another thing. Just enthusiasm, enthusiasm for other people's stories. There are no wrong answers. That is literally a thing that we have on our wall in our home. My husband and I, it's one of our credos is there are no wrong answers when we're together. There are no wrong answers. So that's something that we say. I like to say at the table too. You got a natural one. Oh my God, I love this for you. This is going to be so awesome. Here's what's going to happen. Like, it's so fun.
It's that fail forward mentality.
Yeah.
I remember watching Abria Iyengar DM for the first time, and being like, oh my gosh, I've never visualized fail forward the way she
She's
GMs.
so great at it.
She's so good at it.
So
And I was like, I want to learn and take and understand how you do this, because that is so important to a table, is being like, yeah, okay, you failed this role, but here's what happens and here's what you get to play with now. It's not a shutdown, it's a new door that gets opened, which is so cool.
Yeah. Hey, listen, guys, we have just a few more minutes, and I know there are a bunch of things that we said we were going to get to that we didn't, because this has been such a fantastic conversation. But before we go and before we get cut off, there are a couple of things I want to share. First of all, you can find us on the socials. Again, you can find Madigan at _poetess on Twitter. You can find her at poetess_cosplay on Instagram. You can find me at Sweet Anj, SWEEETANJ, so sweet with 3 E's. On pretty much all the places. You can email me directly at anjali@iamfunsize.com. So if any questions that you had didn't get answered during this session, please feel free to email me. And there's one more thing that I just want to let you guys know about. I am currently doing a fundraiser for a dear friend of our family who was diagnosed with brain cancer. She is undergoing a very expensive experimental treatment, and we need to raise money for her. And what I am doing is I am running some D&D online one-shots in order to raise funds for her. So we have a few ways that you can be a part of these. There's a lottery system, there are reserved seats, there are options there. So if you are interested in finding out more about it, please email us at Let's Play for Angela, ANGELA, and at gmail.com. Sorry. Let's Play for Angela at gmail.com. Go ahead and email the team there, and we'll give you a little more information. We haven't announced it on the socials yet, so you're getting kind of the early intel. But she's a beautiful human being, and she needs our help. And what better way than to have an excuse to play more TTRPGs with each other, because we love doing that. So that announcement. And then please, yes, tune in today at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
3 hours.
Daylight, basically, yeah, like 2 hours from now, right?
Oh gosh.
No, 3 hours. 2 hours.
No, it's 2 hours. You're right.
Time is hard. Time is a weird.
I don't do math.
But anyway, it is 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. You can figure out by that where it is. It's going to be on the D&D Beyond YouTube channel, or lego.com/Lego D&D, I believe. Definitely on the D&D Beyond channel. And check it out, because it's my first time DMing, and it's Luis Carrazzo, it's Ginny D, Lucas Bolt, who created and who designed the new Lego D&D set. He's a fan designer. He won the contest, and now they made his Lego set. And Jordan David Scott, who is one of the Lego creatives who worked on the set with him. So please check it out. It was really, really fun. There's lots of excitement that happens there. And I think that was all the housekeeping.
I think so.
I think so too. So again, hit us up if you have any questions. We're very findable online. Findable is totally a word, I'm sure.
I think so.
And take care of yourselves at the table. Take care of each other at the table, and do that out in the world.
Do something creative today. Protect your creative space. Do something for yourself. You don't have to share it. You don't have to post it. You don't have to show it to anyone. Just do something creative.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay, I don't know if we're gonna get cut off now that we've said this. So we're just gonna vamp for a little bit. There we go. Make sure also to check out all of the other sessions on Big Bad Online.
Oh yes, thank you, Big Bad. Big Bad is amazing.
Yeah, Big Bad is amazing. If you can attend it later in October, please come join us live. But I love Big Bad for what they are doing, how they are promoting diversity in the gaming space, how they are including so many people, how they are providing this content and this access for all of us to be able to talk to you and to talk with each other. Madigan and I would not have met if it wasn't for Big Bad.
It's true. Oh my gosh, that is so true.
Thank you guys for Madigan. I very much appreciate that.
Thank you for Anjali.
And we have 20 more seconds. Get your questions in. Any question?
There will be a quiz. Wait, did you get the job? Did Anjali get the job?
Oh, right. This is a job interview.
I'm going to say yes. You're hired.
I got the job. I hope I got the job. I would love to play at your table.
We'll be in touch in 3 to 5 days.
Amazing. Okay, guys. Bye.
Oh, I think we did it.
We did. Yay. I just want to have a chance to say goodbye to Tomas and Alex, and then I am going
Yes,
to run
thank
off.
you to everyone behind the scenes. Oh, it's
Thank
still
you
recording
guys.
audio.
That was so lovely. That was so much fun. Madigan, I will talk with you later today. I got to run down to Evanston now.
Yes, please.
I love you. I have so many exciting things to share with you. And we will talk soon. Okay, bye.